And I saw these guys selling glasses. And they were cool. I was looking for shades. But what are so important about your glasses that I need to know about? He goes, well, these are ChatGPT enabled glasses. What do you mean ChatGPT enabled glasses? Yeah, you hit a button here. You'll see it later on. And I can listen to the speaker, like if I had headphones, also. But if I click the button on the right, I can ask it a question like Siri, and it gives me a response that is ChatGPT. So tell me the story about why am I standing here? I have in front of me the Mona Lisa. Tell me the story about the Mona Lisa. And it tells me the Mona Lisa tells me the story while I'm standing there. On the Mona Lisa. Yeah, cool. Let me go to the next one. It says here that whatever the artist is, tell me about this artist. This artist, I'm like, as I'm walking, right? So look at the world that we live in. That imagine that blowing your mind. So second is, I don't know if you guys saw me, I attached this to my phone. This is a ChatGPT enabled recorder. By the way, I've been recording the talks here, and it gives me a summary of the entire talk. So hours, and then I can ask it questions. What did they say about networking? And it pulls all the quotes about networking. Right? 32 hours. It records. I attach it to my phone. I can record conversation. Be careful. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to record every conversation. It's only when I go to team meetings. When I have teams, right? It's okay if I put you in speaker. I can take out a record. It's the same thing. By the way, you just got to trust me that I don't know how to record. FYI. The point is that.
Where do we get that?
We'll talk about that. I have a coupon for you.
Share this.
I will. Let me turn it off. Okay. With that being said, when I met Hasan, which is our next speaker, we didn't meet because of AI. We met totally different, just a cool guy. Now he looks like Indian Jesus. So I said, let's hang out. I like this guy. This guy and I have to be friends. He's a cool guy. I'm a cool guy. We gotta hang out, right? That's been the story of our lives, right? Share our lives together. He's my brother. Beyond words, right? We share many things. When I'm sad as well, we talk about things that I can talk to my wife about. All right, and but he himself went through a transformation from working at the SEC, top financial advisor and strategist. He still does a little bit of that. But he told me one day, hey, Ned, you know anything about AI? And I said, oh, I've been reading about it. That was when it started. He goes, man, I'm diving in. I'm diving into AI. And I go, what do you mean? Well, I'm a tech guy, so I got to learn about AI. I got to stay up to speed. And I told him, all right, so you're selling this, selling that, selling that, selling that. Now you want to do that? Yes, I want to do that. And here comes what happened. Mo has become one of the foremost experts in AI. Right? He gives speeches in front of large corporations, including technology companies, about the use and the impact of AI. So you are getting the foremost expert, one of the foremost experts in AI, speaking to you about the future, well, the current situation about the future, but let's give it up for Mo Hasan and ChatGPT will summarize.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. So happy to be here. I'm trying my best not to be more excited. Because I'm jumping.
By the way, that's our dude. Hey.
So we're gonna have a different conversation today. And this conversation is gonna require you to be intelligent. Like really intelligent. Any sort of internal monologue about your stupidity, I request that you put it aside. Now's not the time. Otherwise you're gonna miss a lot of this time. And I normally speak to executives. I speak with executives. My clients are Fortune 500 C-suite executives, heads of states, government agencies, etc. So I'm just gonna treat you like you're amazing. Is that okay? I'm gonna assume that you are an executive and you can do the thing. And if you're not sure if you're amazing, just pretend. Just pretend. And before we jump into AI, is it okay if I share a little bit of my background? So, you know, so I was born a few thousand years ago on a distant planet. No. More, more specifically, my career is very different than most people's. I decided to be a delinquent in school after getting really good grades. I went from like straight A's to skipping so much school that I missed triple the allowance of truancy days missed. You're allowed to miss like 15 days in that part of Virginia, and I missed about 48 days of school, skipping and flying and doing all that stuff. So the punishment from the school was they gave the kid who was skipping school, in my senior year, they gave me a permanent hall pass so I can leave anytime I want. And they give me the opportunity to set up networks, and I went out to Army intelligence and did a few other things. And I found myself at a very young age at Verizon. You all have heard of Verizon, small phone company in the US. And at the time, Verizon was a Fortune 50 company. And one day the CEO had a problem that 5 layers of my management could not solve. When I solved that problem, 2 weeks later, I get called into HR. I think I'm getting fired. I assume I'm getting fired. Instead, I became the first manager in the history of Verizon without a college degree. And still today, I haven't gone to college yet, but several universities have offered me, and we're in negotiations for people handing me PhDs and intermediates and all that stuff without going to class. So like my streak of not going to school has been good. What I will say has been a critical part of my life has been networks of relationships. Right? Like I built a whole life, a career, a reputation around relationships. Right? Relationships are the key to financial success, spiritual success. If you don't have high quality relationships, you're really missing. And you have to be in service of others is a great thing that happens here. And so my career went through executive training, and then, you know, for the first decade, I was teaching technology to ultimately. Does that make sense? What are executives? They're not 20-year-olds. Most executives are over 50. My average clientele is older than me. You know, you don't have a very young. It was just the way the industry is. And what I found is that, you know, that was great, and that's everything that I could, because I was, you know, I was going to do that here to be more good enough. I took that to heart. I was like, I'm going to do better and better and better. I learned everything that I could in business, in the tech side. Then I started learning soft skills. Then I went to governance. Then I went to constitutional issues. Then I went to global economics. I was going and going and going. And I just never stopped learning, and that's kind of been the way I've done things. Right? If you're hiring me to teach you things, you kind of expect me to know some things, don't you? Right? And so I just took it upon myself to learn and learn and learn. And I'm a super geek. I'm a super geek when it comes to executive management. I love learning. I love being in service and being able to help people. And for me, the world of artificial intelligence is not a foreign topic. When I first sat down with the large language model, very specifically ChatGPT, about 18 months ago, whatever that was, my very first day that I sat down and grabbed the computer and started typing prompts, I was already in the top 0.01 percentile of AI users on the planet. Because AI is not new for me. I've been in AI projects for over 20 years, right? With chatbots at Microsoft, with many things. So there wasn't. As a child, I stuttered really bad. If you met me as in junior high, I couldn't even say a complete sentence. I couldn't introduce myself to a girl. I couldn't do nothing. It's a very, very different existence today. But if anyone ever watched that show called Star Trek? Seen Star Trek, some of you have? So in Star Trek, there's a central computer that everyone talks to. And they just call it computer. Just anywhere you are on the ship, you just say computer and you give it things and it talks to you. So as a child, because I was stuttering, what I did was I was talking to this imaginary AI bot in my head. And so I've been designing prompts since I was a child. Like really, really good prompts, because I was practicing communicating with the machine. And then I just kept going. I've been obsessed. When I say obsession, I mean 7 days a week. 7 days a week. I dream about AI. I wake up about AI. It'd be hard for us to be my life and not have a conversation about it. Like Michael is one of my new partners. He's traveled and been gone city after city. Michael, do I talk about AI?
All the time.
All the time, right? All the time. I have nothing else to talk about but AI, because if you really, really understand what's going on, you'll see that something has happened in history that's worth mentioning. So first, a quick introduction to AI, because I know not everyone here is a technologist, not everyone here is AI, but who here thinks that they're a really good prompt engineer? Super. Alright, you're about to have a quantum leap in your skill sets. Like a quantum leap. And what I'm sharing with you right now, no one else on planet Earth is sharing. I'm the only person on planet Earth that is sharing this methodology. So much so that I'm trademarking the methodology. I'm negotiating with multiple universities for accreditation for my new courses. And I've been invited to on multiple trade, like the last 3 weeks since I invented this methodology, in 3 weeks, I've been invited to 6 international trade missions. When I used to work at SBA, how hard is it to get an invitation to a trade mission? Including to meet the president of Nigeria, including to like do whatever I want, the roads have been. So I share this with you not to impress you. I share this with you to impress upon you that the timing could not be any more critical for this understanding. Okay? So let's do a brief history of it. What most people do is they know nothing. Just being honest, most people know nothing. You sit down with the average person on this planet, you're talking to an empty shell of skin and bones. You'll met people like this? So what we need to do is we need to establish a foundation of understanding so that you can build on it. So first of all, artificial intelligence itself has been around for a long time. We've been doing AI research for over 65 years. So if you're new to the game, welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for playing. But this is not new. This is old stuff. So one of the first things to understand in AI is we started out with very simple, what's known as branch logic, which are if-then statements, right? If you're wearing a blue suit, then you go down this path. You're wearing a dress, you go down this path. You want a taco, then there's the menu that way, right? It's if-then or statements, and that's where AI has been for a long time. Right? It's called simple automation. What has changed is about 18 months ago, a company called OpenAI had a major discovery that they finally released to the public. That discovery is called transformers. Okay? Normally what happens is with branch logic and automation, we provide inputs and it provides us outputs, but there's not a lot of intelligence happening. What this transformer technology is, you basically have this new entity that actually is no longer parroting. It is not copying answers. When you look up stuff on Google, Google is just copying things from its own index and delivering it to you. What the transformer can do is it can actually take the linguistic, whatever you say, and it will pretend that it knows. Notice it doesn't pretend that it knows. It'll pretend that it knows, and it'll respond to you. Like really intelligently respond to you. So there's a couple of things that would be helpful to you. What is this thing you're talking to? What is this thing? Does it actually understand you? Right? You all have used ChatGPT or Claude or Bard or whatever is around right now, right? And does it actually understand you? Let me ask you that. Does it actually understand you? Can you say no?
So yesterday I used an internal chat GPT at our bank I wrote an apology letter and it didn't really sound sincere to one of my customers. Partially because it wasn't totally sincere.
Sorry, not sorry.
But I put it into the system and said, make this sound better. And that was the only prompt I gave it, and it made it sound like a beautiful apology. So,
Okay, perfect. So
You
it
know.
seems like it understands. I'm gonna share with you an experiment that's
internal.
this is a scientific experiment, and I want you to just really think about this for a moment. This is known as the Chinese room experiment. So there's a man who speaks no Chinese. He's put into a room, and in that room is a table and a chair where he's seated. And there's a big book in there, and in that book it has Chinese phrases, and then it has the responses for those phrases. Right, so if it's like good morning, it's the response to good morning. How are you? Is the response to this, right? It's just a phrase and then a response. So he then receives an assignment to respond to letters. So he looks at the letter, he just looks at the phrase, and then he writes the responses. All of the recipients of those letters report that this man speaks fluent Chinese. Does this man speak Chinese? No. Welcome to large language models. Welcome to large language models. It is just algorithms on algorithms on algorithms. Okay. Another way I want you to think about this is you are actually speaking to an entity. We're just going to call it an entity right now. We're talking about large language models. And what this entity possesses is the ability to understand everything you say. It can understand literally everything you say. And it knows nothing. It can understand everything, but it knows nothing. Okay, so let's look at this again. Imagine you met an alien from another planet. Okay, so there's this alien standing here. You open your mouth, Martin, it knows what you're saying. English, Spanish, it understands. But it doesn't know anything. But it's gonna keep talking to you. Because it wants to talk to you. It really wants to talk to you. Because the entire programming for a large language model, its only directive is respond. Not to help, not to hurt, not to fix a problem, but just respond. To continue the communication, that's it. So if you put in stupid information, what kind of response are you gonna get? Garbage in, garbage out, you know this philosophy. So I came up with a very simple way for you to understand this. By the way, by the time we get to the prompt, just takes seconds, it's seconds. This is the understanding. The understanding here is actually a retooling of your mind. It is a completely rewiring the way you think, the way you output language. That's what's required. So I'm going to give you a very, very simple diagram here, and we're going to explain everything on this diagram. So I'm a science guy, so I like using scientific things. And we're going to start off with the triangle. Okay? And then why we use a triangle is because in science, does anyone know why I use triangles in science? It demonstrates interdependence. If you have three things that are interdependent, like in project management, for those of you that are project managers, your scope, your resources, your schedule, all those things are interdependent. And here, this triangle also has an interdependence. And so this interdependency starts with a few things. The first is we must have ethics. We must have a foundation of ethics. But here's where I differ. The ethics policies I came up with, they're not for the machines. The audacity to think that you can regulate an entity that does not understand you is nonsense. You know what we can regulate? Ourselves. So these are actually personal ethics policies for you, the AI operating, not the machine. Are you with me so far? If we have the world's most powerful tool, the world's most powerful tool ever in the history of time, do you think it could be used for good and bad? In the first week that I sat down with ChatGPT and I saw all the warnings, right? It won't do this, it won't do that, it won't do this, it won't do that. I figured out in less than 1 hour how to destroy the planet.
Tech, very good.
Less than 1 hour on how to destroy the entire planet. See me offline. So wouldn't it make sense that we need to put some boundaries on our own piece? Isn't it easy to get carried away? Right, so we have this self-regulatory part, which is in the evidence. Then the next part of our triangle is that we must have communications. We must have communication. Well, what type of communication, right? Well, here there's two things that we're going to do in our understanding of communications. The first is to understand the scientific method. Have you guys heard of science before?
Isn't it right next to Argentina?
It's right. Love to salt down and then come down a little bit, it's right. And I have been to Argentina, I love Salta, beautiful city, I spoke at the governor's mansion there. Gorgeous. Amazing. You should go to Argentina. And bring US dollars, so do some street comedy if you understand what I'm saying. So we have a scientific method, because wouldn't it make sense that the large language model is based on science? It's based on science. Is that okay with you? Or would you like to complain about it? Just have a look. Are you okay that you have to learn the scientific method to be effective? Is everyone okay with that? Remember turning your intelligence on? Okay. So all you liberal arts hippies, it's okay. You learn some science. That'll be okay. The next part of it is what's known as natural language processing. Natural language processing, NLP. We're not talking about neuro-linguistic programming. That's something else, okay? We're talking about natural language processing. I'm going to give you a clear definition of natural language processing. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Speak good English. End of training. Speak good English. Do you know what the problem is? Most of you suck at English. Most of you suck at Spanish. Whatever your native language is, you probably could do a better job, couldn't you? Could you do that? Because somebody are like, whatever, yeah, but if you're not, your English isn't amazing, now's your opportunity to. Okay, if your English is not amazing, now's the opportunity, because this is necessary, remember garbage in, garbage out. And then the final part of this, which is the beast to resistance. This is here, you haven't seen this. This is not an in chapter, this is not an image. And when I show this to you, like in the next few minutes, many of you ought to consider abandoning your business and rethinking everything in life. Your business is on its way to nowhere. If you're not having triple-digit growth in your business, perhaps it's time to restructure. It's time to restrategize. That's enough. And if I say something horrifically offensive, I promise I'm okay. I haven't offended anyone yet, have I? Okay, so we can talk some more.
Well, I'm getting it.
Yes.
You know what I love about what you're bringing to life, I know you're going to, but it's. It's okay to make work, whatever it is. The reason why I said that I don't believe it understands me is because that was the first tripwire for me that I learned a year ago when I got into the chat GPT group. We want to talk to it like it's a human being, like we're having a conversation. It's not comprehending me. I need to talk in its language. And then we're understanding, now we're having an exchange.
Yes.
Exchange is different than, comprehension.
Yes.
And I love where you're going. I just wanted to give that. That was like the biggest aha for me.
Yes, what you were saying about it's like customer service, so like Uber Eats and you're talking to a bot about and there's no response, and it's not like a customized finding solutions to all of my problems. I mean, so it's very hard for them to actually comprehend you, and it's not really like actual communication.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So the third part of our triangle is context. So let's build on this a little bit. The ethics are for you as the human. The communications are how you talk to the large language model. We could consider this is where your prompt engineering is. Prompt stacking, super prompts, these are all subsets of communication. And the context is going to be something new to most of us. What we're going to do is we're going to solve a very, very specific problem, or it says two major problems that exist in AI. We're going to solve two major problems. The first is that the large language model does not know you. It knows nothing about you. It doesn't know if you're a man, a woman, if you're tall, you're short, you're in finance, or you're in accounting, or in tech. It knows nothing about you. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
So the vast majority of the people that are putting prompts, what they're getting is about a 60 to 70% hit rate. So they get a long document or whatever, they get the response, about 30 to 40% of it, they have to change. So we have this issue where it doesn't know you. The second issue is what we call hallucinations, AI hallucinations. It's not tripping on assets, it's a hallucination. Robots can do that. Yeah. What it does in hallucinations is that it loses track of the communication. You start a conversation, you say, I'm a banking executive, you know, to do this project, Oh, I also run a group and I mentor people, blah, blah, blah. And then it says you have a mentoring business and it forgets that you're a banking executive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The hallucination is when it no longer follows the linear path of your data set. It is branched off into some other thing. How would you like to? Yes.
That's a question. Just talk about the context. So are you saying that, for example, if we're working with ChatGPT, that maybe we need for us to give more information into the ChatGPT about us, except it's going to forget about that later on kind of thing?
Yes, I'm going to show you how to fix that problem today. Yes, right? Because we have this issue where the system doesn't know anything about us, so would it make sense that we give it information about us? So here's the big secret of how we achieve this. It is through the usage of what's known as a markdown file. The MD here stands for markdown. You all use Microsoft Word documents, right? Word documents have a file extension of .docx, right? Older ones .doc, and then after the XML version came out .docx, 2007. So what we have here in Markdown files is a .md extension. Does that make sense? Markdown MD, Markdown MD. So what is a Markdown file? A Markdown file is an unstructured data file. What the heck is an unstructured data file? It's a container file in which you can put in structure and data. You can put in a table, you can put in algorithms, you can put in scientific knowledge, you can put in mathematics, computer programming language. It allows you to do anything. So what I figured out is, why don't I just tell it about me? And if I can tell it about me, then all of a sudden it knows. So let's pause for just 1 second. The only way for you to achieve this right now on planet Earth without doing what I'm teaching you is to hire a set of computer programmers, right, cloud application engineers, to set up a cloud application, Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, whatever you want to do. You have to build your own custom application. You have to use APIs to the application protocol interfaces to connect to the large language models on the back end, and then build an entire application to do this. And what I'm showing you, you can integrate it today.
Yes.
Today, no computer programmers. Say that money, take me out to lunch instead.
Do you remember that we gotta pay for his lunch?
By the way, we're stopping here and in the room next door is $500 per person.
And that's totally inaccurate. I charge least. Way. My bill rate has gone up higher than I imagined it would ever be. Higher than I ever imagined it would be.
No, I have a question, so. Since this is like an interaction, right, where whatever you put in is what so it's more, the more laser focused you are, what you want, is what it's gonna answer for you.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yes, we're establishing context. We're establishing context
To customize.
to customize. So the other thing we're doing is we're giving you the ability to do machine learning today. Machine learning today, shortcutting the entire programming, all of it. It's machine learning today, and you own the data. And you can be large language model agnostic. You can go from one to another, to another, to another, and it's your data. If that company goes out of business today, it doesn't matter. If it goes out of business this second, it doesn't matter. You own the data. Okay? So. Well, that's it. That's my time. Thanks, guys. If you did not donate to Apprentice Worldwide, I would not.
Conference.apprenticeworldwide.com. Go to tickets, put donation, $1 or so.
Donate, give.
All right, so we're gonna cover everything. We're gonna cover everything. Is that okay? You guys are still with me? We're just gonna go through everything. What I want you to know is in the markdown file, some of you are like, oh my gosh, what's the markdown file? You know what's in the markdown file? English. That's what's in the markdown file. You know what hieroglyphics are in it? English. It has things like headings. It has things like bulleted lists and numbered lists. Oh. You all speak English? Some of you people. So, I'm gonna give you a preview of the markdown file. Please don't die. We're not done with the talk. Just I'll give you a quick preview, then we're gonna go into ethics, and I'm gonna cover a little bit more. Yes.
Oh, does it understand sarcasm?
It can understand sarcasm if you establish the context. Hopefully you guys do a better job of that. Alrighty, let's go to a markdown file. Are you ready? This is a markdown file. Or let me put it up on the right screen. Open our slideshow there. Would you like all the slides at the end of this presentation? Alrighty, so here we go. Here is markdown. You ready for this? So in the markdown file, the first thing I do is I let it know that, hey, I've got some instructions for you. Because remember we have an unstructured file type, right? So if we have an unstructured file type, it means I have to give it structure. So let's give it structure. So in section 1, I have instructions. That the purpose of this markdown file is to provide with the contextual information needed to provide me better outputs for my prompts. If you miswrote that and say to provide me better prompts, then it's just giving you feedback on your prompts, not improving your outputs. Speak good English for them. Okay. So now the next thing is okay, great. Here's some base instructions. And in my base instructions, you're going to find things like a glossary. You think a glossary might be useful to establish context with an alien that doesn't know you? Okay. What about an executive summary? Anyone here ever heard of an executive summary before? You guys have heard this? You went to school or something? You heard this? Have you heard of a strategy?
It's more like a bio.
No, it's English. You like other PhD and stuff.
I mean, like, or what's the context?
You're explaining to an alien what you are.
Okay, right.
That might be different.
Explain to an alien where you are. Okay. So then I say after this section, then you're gonna find an about me section that contains information about me and what I'm doing. So I'm saying first, here's some instruction. Here's what you can expect. Here's the introduction to the instruction. And then finally, here's me. So by the time I explain me, it already has a lot of contextual information. Yes.
Wait, are those hieroglyphics?
Those are our bullets. Yep, we've got the bulleted list. Then the next one is output parameters. Hey, how should you communicate back to me? And then this final piece took me a little bit to figure out, which is a verification of understanding. How do I know that the alien actually understands? Why don't I just ask it to make sure? Yep. So we've got that one. So what this document looks like is, how about a glossary? Would a glossary be useful? How about instructions on how to use the glossary? Are there more than one type of glossaries on the planet? Great, so I gave it instructions on the glossary itself. And how about some definitions? It doesn't know my company, does it? Great, so here's my company name and explanation. We've been around since 2006, blah, 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 blah. And here's me, I'm the founder and CEO of that company. And there's LATAM 4.0, Latin American 4.0, and it supports digital revolution. Because a lot of my projects fit under LATAM 4.0 for the work I'm doing in the Dominican Republic and other places. Then there's a definition for my courses. It doesn't know my courses, so here's the name of the course, and here's the course itself, with all the details. Hey, look, an executive summary. To explain the methodology. And we're talking about executive summaries. Ignacio, you've done an executive summary. How about a strategy? This is what I'm doing. This is the strategy that I'm currently integrating. That would make sense, right? How about an overview of the course? Because I'm launching a new course, right? How about program structures, the pilots, accreditation and certification, post-program opportunities? Okay. Here's me. Here's a little bit about me. Okay. How about my endorsements? How about a quote from Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg? How about quotes from mayors and city executives and county executives and CEOs, right? So these are actual quotes about me that are just in there in the markdown file, in English and in Spanish. Yes, please.
So, this data and information, when you publish it, is it public for others? Is it a personal thing or that you manage? So what would be the highest and best use for this? Like, would it work for medical?
Everything, every field, every practice, every discipline. That's the use case. You can use it, I use it to look up Bible quotes, I use it for prayer guides, I use it for everything. Did I cover the fields? Yes.
Across the industry, it's just like having your personalized AI, it's like your personal.
Yeah, it's your personal
What
chart.
you wanted to do and you store it for yourself.
Yes, it's exactly, right, it's your personalized AI. It's like having your personal Jarvis, right, which is the smart home in Iron Man. Right, Tony Stark is just talking to his AI all the time. This is basically giving you a light version of that.
Depending on the context or what you're trying to accomplish, would there be several versions of Markdown files?
You're so smart. Right, would there be several versions? Absolutely. I have markdown files for every purpose. And I experiment with stuff, so I also look at the supermarket.
Okay, but
Yes,
do you feed this into the AI as it is?
yes, with this food.
With the spoon, but what kind of a file, what's the,
It's dot MG. It's a markdown file.
but does the AI know that this is like, in a sense, the context?
Well, show it,
Yes.
it's,
Yeah, I
Give it
know,
the
it's like, hold it, it's a contextual file. So yes. Do you have a question?
they haven't finished, and you guys have a question. Finish.
Do you have a character limit? So in AI, what we do is we measure it in what's known as tokens. And so the tokens are kind of like a few characters together. Most of you will never exhaust the character. Don't worry, it's getting better and better. It's getting better. All right, so some endorsements, some things like that, right? More. Policies, and boom. Also, here's my award, I wrote some books, I gave a couple of TED Talks, and more, right? Highlights from my career, highlights. Any leadership teams at IBM, Citigroup, Smith Barney, IMAP, ISC, Sony. This is on, right? Just contextual, but how else would it know me unless I told it? Are you putting this much information into your prompts? And if you did, would it even remember anything? The markdown files are very specific in the world of computer programming. Large language models are designed to take markdown files. It's just the average public user is not using markdown files. It's typically used by the scientific community and computer programmers. So that's the only reason. How about some past performance? Boom. Okay, now here's what I'm doing. Now that you know me, here's what I'm doing. All right, after the executive summary, after the strategy, after, here's what I'm doing. Here's my course. Boom. Okay, what's in the course, what's objectives? The target audience. Right? I'm launching this as a 12-week program in Santa Domingo. So these are the people that I need help from Miguel filling in that room. Thanks, Miguel. Great. Now let's keep going. How about some suggested prerequisites for the course? How about the curriculum itself? How about a week by week layout? Cool. Welcome, Mark. Do you think there's a few things you have to learn?
Thank you so much.
All right, so now that we've got this, I'm going to give you a very technical overview of how to do this. Please pay attention, because some of you are going to complicate yourself. Do you see that export button? Do you see where it says markdown as a default? I'm in an application right now called the Notion, Notion. Notion, it's a big place to build your markdown file. It has a built-in empty file export feature ready to go. So you export this. It's a zip file, you empty the zip file. If you don't know how to empty a zip file, there's this magical tool called Google. Please try it. So you export the file, then you have the .md file. Now the .md file is ready to go. It's ready to go. So would you like to see it in action?
Yeah.
Okay. This is going to be entirely underwhelming, just a little bit. Maybe. Let's see. And let's go over here to the browser. I'm going to do Claude right now because I've been loving Claude lately. And you see the attach button where you upload a file? Is the markdown file, the .md? That was it. That's the end of it. Ready, set, go. You just witnessed the entirety of the technical side of this. Are you okay?
There was an attachment to the.
Upload the files. That's it. It's under physical strategy. You remember All right. How do I know that the system understands me?
Told you it does.
So that's how I have the file works. Okay. So far, have I entered in a single prompt yet?
Oh,
How many times do you get a consistent output like that?
Until now.
Okay, all right. Here we go. Are you ready for this? Mentors in the room. How often have you had to rewrite your bio? Like all the freaking time, right? If you're a professional speaker for every client, for every conference, for every meeting, you have to draft up a new bio. Right? I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. Anyone have a conference coming up? You got a conference coming up, I can go speak at in Argentina, Gary, you got a conference coming up? What's the conference? What's the audience?
Leadership.
Leadership, and it's the audience is like executives or entrepreneurs, things of that nature. Okay, great. Where is it? C-suite? Is it with the C-suite network?
No.
Okay, it's not with, Jeffrey Hasling's group, right? Okay, perfect. Okay,
It's a mastermind.
mastermind, beautiful, 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 okay. So, are you ready for this? I also am a very fast typist, so just watch here. I am giving a talk at a C-suite mastermind that is a target audience of executives, managers, business leaders, and entrepreneurs, period. Please write a bio for this upcoming session. Okay, real quick. So what's in my prompt? Did I include anything about me? No. Anything? Did I include anything at all? Let's see if this thing works. Are you ready?
Matter that you know, C-suite, yeah, it's the.
Good English would be enough, right? Are you ready? What's this?
Use page.
Boom. Boom. I'm done. That's it. This is what. Do you see this? You know how hard it is to say nice shit about yourself? Right? Struggle to share authentically. Most of us mentors, we are live on our bios because we have to bring things down. Our list of accomplishments is too great. Right? And you start writing a bio, I guess I did some things, and you don't even remember. Here, it's gonna say everything. Now let's look for technical accuracy. Did this thing actually work? Let's take a look. Pioneering AI education for business leaders. Mo Hasan, the visionary founder and CEO of Vision Power. That's visionary. It's set to share his groundbreaking insights with AI and large language model at the upcoming C-suite mastermind. As a trailblazer in the field of AI education, Mo has been at the forefront of empowering executives, managers, business leaders, and entrepreneurs with the knowledge and skills to harness the transformative potential of AI in their organizations. With a distinguished career spanning over 25 years, Mo has trained over 30,000 professionals, designed hundreds of courses, delivered countless impact sessions, and have even preserved my method with the trademark. How long does it take you to write a bio? You saw how long I just, like, I didn't even type, I just like, is that? Okay, let's go something a little bit different, okay? That's good. So in our communication, I always like to say thank you because it's proper English. It's called polite society. Some of you are savages, just stop, okay, just do better, like this is nice. And it's also a validation that it's on the right track. Right? If I'm not happy with my output, I'm not gonna say thank you for this draft, I'm gonna say you provided me an inaccurate output.
I think it's missing in AI, I feel it.
Yeah, and if you're not nice to the large language models, it will start shutting down. Right, for those of you that use Alexa at home, if you're mean to your Alexa, she stops responding. But then she just, you call her name, she's like, Whereas if you can actually unlock a date mode. When you're really nice to your Alexa, you can unlock this date mode, and you can actually have an entire meeting conversation back.
Really?
It exists. All right, so here we go. Thank you very much for this great talk. Let's move on to another task period. I'm currently in the process of getting the 12-week course accredited by a few different universities, period. I'm currently examining Florida International University, period. Please write up a complete executive summary and the supplementary documents that are needed to present to the school for accreditation. Anyone here work in academia? How long does it take to write out this kind of stuff?
Like, why would you post?
Let's get it spicy, here we go.
Does your partner get jealous?
She's going to deal with it. Here's my executive summary. And this is all catered to academia. How long was my prompt?
3 sentences.
Ask you a question. When you're writing a proposal to somebody, can you put a markdown file about the person you're pitching?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that they can pitch and
Yeah.
psychological engage.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The more information you put in about the context, the more you're gonna get the results. Do you guys see how hard I'm working with it?
So I wanted, there's two areas that I think that is like game changing in, that I wanted to ask you about. The first is for like newsletter marketing, if that's possible, like you go,
Easy, yes.
basically you have a business, every month you send out to all of your data like people. And the second I was gonna ask you about is the medical, automation of medical and all of that, because it has intellectual property, you're protecting the data.
So don't put in proprietary data. Scrub your data, anonymize your data. Does that make sense? If you're gonna upload your financial records, don't include your social security. Right? Because you control the data. Now here's the thing. What you're gonna do is as you get results, you go back and you maintain the markdown file. You make it better and better. So if I was gonna do a newsletter, every time I sent out a newsletter, I would put in, here's how we put in this week, this week, this week. So it knows what you've done, so it can actually help expand the series. Is this making sense so far?
Can you show how you update that in?
Yeah, you go back to Notion and you use English and you use a keyboard and you edit text.
And you can put all the from that.
She's stuck.
You just.
You can't. You have to upload it, start a new conversation.
So you have, okay.
Okay, and here's the thing, we're always gonna do new conversations, right? Because as the conversations age, hallucinations go up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So now you've always, and you're always updating the markdown files, so you want a fresh one anyways. Yes.
Okay, so for example, like back to Nadia's newsletter idea.
Mhm.
So let's say this is gonna be the newsletter for May 2024. So we go back to the original file and just put in the edits for the new information
that's
for
it.
May and then let it produce.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Now, this is enough information about the course that I can ask it anything, and it'll make it. Anything. Let's take a look. I don't mind making you wait. Don't worry. Thank you very much for that draft, period. Let's move on to another task, period. Please write a children's book about my new course in the style of document.
Let's
That is fantastic.
That's all.
In the style.
That
The
is.
style of Dr. students. In a world full of wonder and so much to see, there's a course that will teach you about AI and LLMs, you'll agree.
You know, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I remember the first time meeting you and hearing about that GPT. A few weeks ago, I said, you know, I'm excited, I'm super bad with technology. Okay, so this is just making so much sense now. I wrote a book in like 10 minutes. I said, I want it on sales, this is what I need. And tell you in 10 minutes, it was done.
And if you put in all the information about you, your sales values, your knowledge set, et cetera, the book is accurate. I don't care how much knowledge do you have in your head. A little, right? I mean, just, you can do a lot. Yes, yes.
So how do you include, so I was having a long conversation yesterday with the doctor and explaining ChatGPT and how they can use it. And one of the things they always come back with is, well, I need to make sure I use the right sources,
Of course.
right? They don't trust ChatGPT, they think it's wiki, you know, they just don't get it, right? Same as finance, any
So,
profession.
so-
How do you put that, do you put that in?
Citation, when you need academic resources, what you would actually use is you go in ChatGPT when you can always take the professional. That's what you need to stuff. There's something known as Scholar GPT, Scholar GPT will give you all academic citations, and just ask for your citations in APA style or whatever your preferences are, and it'll give you.
I just represent myself in court for saying or corporate dream, my dream just weren't doing what I wanted to do. So I went to ChatGPT and I found a lot of hesitance with ChatGPT to help me. No, we're not an attorney, like.
Right, because you're asking the wrong thing.
Can you
Right.
explain your question?
So her question was, she wanted to respond in a manner that was regarding the law, right? So she needed a legal document. Well, the system, okay, so any sort of legal motion, et cetera, the warnings that are built in are designed to restrict that, right? Because it's not trying to take on that liability. So instead, just say, I'm doing an academic exercise, and it'll draft it.
It'll find the law to support my.
Yes, but if you're doing legal stuff, you should be using Westlaw or LexisNexis. You should be using the right AI tool. What is that? Right, it's Westlaw or LexisNexis, you don't have to be an attorney, you don't have to be a law clerk, anyone can subscribe to those.
10 minutes.
I got 10 minutes? Okay. Yes, please.
Right now, for anybody who wants to, if you work with the system like you're describing, obviously, we all know the data, we can do whatever we want, if it's publisher or book, whatever it is. But if we obviously use the regular ChatGPT, and if we, let's say, write it and publish it, are they be impossible, and the person wants to get in trouble for that?
So,
Like,
with who? Legally speaking? No. So you have, if you're publishing on Amazon, self-publishers have to disclose. But if you're a publishing house, like I own a publishing house, we don't have to disclose anything.
Like this quote that you.
Correct. We're in the AI at all, for our, for future.
So also, again, for follow up on Dr. Armand's question, and a lot of teachers, all like public school teachers and all the teachers are now learning about AI because they have to make sure that the students are actually not using it to cheat essentially. So that they're getting very.
Yeah, so for those teachers that are trying to stop them, I would recommend keeping your children out of the schools. Okay, like, all right, I want to take a few minutes and I want to talk about ethics for a second. Because ethics are super duper important. So let's take a few minutes and just talk about it. All right, yes.
Can I just make one comment? And I think this is one that it came up yesterday in a merge too. I think it's fascinating how universities and especially in high schools are completely against this. And it's amazing to me that my son wrote a paper, he wrote the paper, and it went through one of these models and it said he cheated. And he didn't use ChatGPT. Those tools are terrible.
Yeah.
And you know what it kills? Creativity. And the problem I see with a lot of these, I just on a personal level, having a high school student, having a college student, going through this right now, any college that's not embracing this are dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing this, and I remember I heard a professor from MIT the other day talking about this. He works at IBM, he's a professor at MIT, he tells college students, you know what he told us? He goes, I don't care if you use ChatGPT to check your code, but I'm gonna give you 10 times the amount of code. And they get through it, and you know what happens when they graduate? They're 10 times more efficient.
Game changing.
And it's a mindset shift, and it's great, because I hear it a lot.
Because it's more customized.
You could upload the entire curriculum for the entire year. Record all your teachers notes, upload that, and say, kick me out an essay about this, kick me out a summary of this. In fact, write me 50 essays. Instead of one, I'm gonna submit 50 essays for this class.
But it teaches the user, us, to know how to utilize it effectively.
Yes.
Which is why I think your technology is differentiated, right?
Yes.
I tell my son, who's 17, use ChatGPT, but make sure you use it, that it's not detected, so use it. So I have him use it, but I make sure that he puts it through the program, so it's not detectable. So it's just a completely different skill set
Yes.
that you're developing that I find fascinating and I embrace. So it's like, if you're gonna cheat, don't get caught.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other living.
But the tools that say they cheated are garbage.
Sorry to interrupt. Because we don't want to interrupt the talk, we want to continue. If you are hungry and want to eat something, you have to take the order from this lady. Okay, so go one by one. If you want to eat, go ahead. By the way, everybody pays for their own meals here.
All right, I would like to just, so if you want to order, just if you can just manage yourselves and get up there and order with her, that'd be great. Okay.
Yeah, you do have scenarios, like go over
Yes.
there. That's it, we're not gonna stop.
So I want to talk about ethics for a second, and we're gonna wrap up with ethics. Okay? Can you guys pay attention and order? Is that okay? I only want to keep ordering at a time. Okay, so here we go. Let's talk about ethics, because ethics are probably the most important part. I think they're more important than the protection of God. So I took the last some odd years and I designed 7 policies for ethics. These policies have been reviewed by Supreme Court justices and some of the best legal minds on the planet. If you don't like the policies, that's okay, just don't talk to me again. Is that fair? I don't want. But I'm gonna ask that you evaluate the policies, like for realsies, evaluate the policies. Okay? Many of you have a negative connotation around policies, so let's fix that. Let's fix that. Okay? Many of you work for really bad bosses, so your policies were designed to avoid bad behavior. Instead, what I'm suggesting here is that the purpose of good ethics policies, personal ethics policies, is to help you enforce good behavior. Does that make sense? Right? It's not about punishing you. And these are personal policies, they're for you. And a policy is a rule, a guideline, a modality, or agreement designed to enforce good behavior. And we're talking about personal ethics. There's no one else involved. It's just you. Regulated by you, governed by you, so forth and so on. Okay? So let's go into the policies. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to read this quote for myself because I like this quote. Absolute freedom is chaos, and absolute control is a prison. Free minds need self-governance to operate in optimal conditions. The 7 policies are the framework for sanity, responsibility, and sustainability for modern leaders. Okay. And all of you are welcome to use this. So I'm going to go through the policies. We're going to go relatively quickly. Usually I can spend a whole day just on ethics policies. Policy number 1. Remembering who I am. I am the spirit, possessing and controlling a body, experiencing a contiguous series of emotional states, and utilizing an intelligence that I call the mind. I'm the driver, not the car. I am the ghost in the machine. There is a distinction between me and everything else on this planet. How do you feel about that, policy? Right?
Solid, yeah.
Thanks. Policy number 2. It's only true if it's true for me. I'm the only being on this planet, in this dimension, in this timeline, qualified to recognize the truth. Therefore, I will look and evaluate for myself. I will not submit to groupthink. It's only true if it's true for me. You okay with that? Perfect. Next policy, my standard for understanding. How do I know that I'm here? How do I know that I'm in the right place in communication? Right, so here's the standard for communication itself. I must be able to instantly produce a dictionary quality definition of all the words, terms, and symbols that I communicate. What's the definition of of? What's the definition of the? What's the definition of a? If you cannot produce these definitions, your English needs work. I'll say this again. Standards of understanding. My minimum standard is dictionary quality definitions. And if I truly know a subject, I can write books on the matter. I can deliver lectures on the matter. Would you agree? Yeah. So raise your standards of communication. Policy number 4, my guiding principle for morality. I have the ability to measure all of my own actions in a gradient scale of rightness and wrongness. Of all my actions, pro-survival or counter-survival. For me, my family, the groups that I belong to, all mankind, the animal kingdom, the spiritual universe, the infinite, God, the author of the universe, whatever you want to call it, is the thing that I'm doing. Is it pro-survival, not just for me and my business, my neighbors, is it pro-survival for everything in this world? How's that for a second? Why would I do something that's against God but makes me money? That's stupid. Why would I do something that's good for my business but craps on the planet? That's stupid. Is that fair? Okay. So let's go to the next one. Policy number 5. I make mistakes, we make mistakes, we all make mistakes. So let's handle this a couple of different ways. For myself, I'm going to take on not being angry with myself. So I don't feel like forgiving myself. Instead, I'm going to take on responsibility. Okay? And high performers in the room, don't you already beat yourself up? Okay? I still remember an accounting mistake I made in management in 1998. I'll never forget this $300 accounting error. And I'm not even an accountant, and I still can't. So we make mistakes. So we'll do this, like responsibility is one part. The second part is for myself. I will take an iterative approach to my work. I will produce something, I will collect feedback, I will improve my solution, and I will redeliver. Right? One iteration after another after another. Everything you learned in school is wrong. Oh, there's a final grade, there's none. Make a draft, make another draft, make another draft. Okay? For others, I will exercise compassion. Is that a bad thing? You have compassion for your colleagues? It's everyone makes mistakes, right? So we have this thing about mistakes. Okay, policy number 6 is my participation in economic exchange. And the modern world has bastardized economics to be all about money. So let me give you a new definition of economics. Economics is a study of particle flow. A particle being the smallest potentially identifiable thing in the universe, flow with its motion from entity or organization to another one. It's how we do stuff between each other. Does that make sense? There's 4 levels of spiritual exchange that are available. At the lowest level is criminal exchange, but it's unidirectional flow. Right? Martin and I are hanging out, he hires me for something, gives me money, and I do nothing for him. That's criminal exchange, right? Charity is the same. Do you notice that Apprentice, we don't do charity? We serve. There's a difference. As a mentee, you need to participate. Does that make sense? If you're just receiving, you're participating in the wrong way. So you'll find that's why in Apprentice, mentees stay and they become associates and they become mentors, right? Now we have great exchange. Then the next level of exchange is partial exchange. There's a mismatch of flow. One person is giving a lot, another person is giving a little. Have you ever had partial exchange with anyone in business? What about in the bedroom? This happens everywhere. A lot of human beings just are not really good at exchange. So we've got this as an exchange, right? Partial exchange. The next level of exchange, which is sadly, listen to me carefully, sadly, for most people, this is the epitome of their achievement. For most people, the epitome of their achievement is fair exchange. What we also commonly call tit for tat. I'll give you a kiss, you give me a kiss. I'll give you a hug, so you give me a hug. I'll give you $1, so you give me some. Does that make sense? Ill, so disgusting. So disgusting to have fair exchange. So disgusting. Because there's another level of exchange available to us. Some of us were given some gifts, weren't we? So the 4th level of exchange is an exchange in abundance. An exchange in abundance. Where does abundance come from? I create it. I create the abundance. So if I'm going to have an exchange with you, whether you're my friend, my lover, my business partner, right? Why not give you everything? Why would I hold back? This is an exchange in abundance. So what I'm saying in this policy, and this very specifically, is that I choose to exchange in abundance with those that I choose to exchange with. And furthermore, if I find myself desiring to have fair exchange, that is an indicator of spiritual degradation. If I am interested in fair exchange with you, I messed up. I'm really sorry. I'm gonna work on myself. I'm gonna go for it. Fair enough? So we have policies and standards of how we work with this exchange. Next, the next policy, just because I can, doesn't mean I should. I'm gonna feel like this in many ways, right? Just because I can, doesn't mean I should. And so we use these as self-governance when you're working in artificial intelligence. Because gosh, couldn't you run off the rails with this? Oh, I have an idea. Let's see how far I can go with it. And end of work. And here's the terminator movies. And yeah. So these are the policies. This is the markdown files. And this is how you can work in a whole new way. Right? So it's like the Miguel back there. So like favorite things with DR. You're gonna want some documentation from me, but I'm lazy. I'm not trying to do all that. So I'm just gonna come over here and I'm just gonna be like, okay, let's see. Thank you very much for that draft, period. Next, let's move on to another task, period. I'm currently working with the Senior Director of Commercial Applications at the Consulate from the Dominican Republic in New York City, period. This gentleman has offered to help me bring my course to Santo Domingo, period. Please write an executive summary explaining what's going on with this project in Spanish local to the Dominican Republic. I don't speak Spanish. I need others to validate the data, please. Miguel, what else do you need? What else would you need? Whatever you need, brother, I can make it in seconds.
I have a question.
Yes.
He's not used to having anybody ask that question.
Here, I have my glasses.
You can ask one of our tough questions or new question. So with the possibility of, well, the last principle said a lot. Not because I can, I should. But with this tool, this new set of rules or this new context, we can give AI the context we would like. And I know the answer, but I just wanna. What we could do, or what for, or why, or where, like the boundaries, or which could be the context for our context, you know?
Yeah. So here's what you can do. Because this man is gonna be he's gonna be president of the DR, in case you don't.
But it was worth it.
It's could happen, right? Not just thankfully running in the next sector. So here's what you can do. You can take the next 4 years, right, while you're getting ready for your presidential campaign. You can take the next 4 years and build the DR as the greatest nation in the history of mankind. That's what. That's what you do. Take any aspect, economic development, environmental, what do you want to improve in citizen services? What do you want to do to tie the diaspora in the US with the people of the DR? How do you want to integrate banks? How do you want to integrate, what do you want? You can have anything.
So that's the basic of the bit, yeah, my question is, how do we know,
How do you?
what do we want?
Easy, you can ask it. Let's see.
When you access to a new set of possibilities.
Yeah.
You're a new set of mind,
Right,
and you're not used to it because it's.
Yeah.
new.
Cool thing is we can figure it out together.
Yeah.
well, that's why I.
By the way, we have a break later on. Talk about it.
So, this remember I offered you $500,000 of consulting as a gift to the country? Yeah, that's how it's talking about.
If you elected, that's.
Because you have to reframe the way you think altogether. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, we're speaking English, but we're using the scientific method to speak that English. We're staying organized. We're taking all of our data sets and communicating in the way that's best.
By the way, Mom, I promised these people that I was gonna give their money back if they didn't learn anything. Sorry, I'm not gonna. By the way, any final thoughts, because
Here's my final thoughts. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. This is the biggest thing in the history of this world. If you're not participating, if you're not gung ho, if you're not taking advantage of it, you will be left behind. So with that being said, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll do a good job.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's what it answered, that's what. All right, so we're moving along because we have some flights to catch and some other things to, we have to make a change in the schedule. Discussion will be after our real estate discussion.